All right, here we go. Episode number 1 of the Impossible Life Podcast. Welcome to the Impossible Life Podcast, where we say, or at least I say, think better and live the impossible.
That's what we're trying to do.
That is what we're trying to do. So I'm here with Garrett Unkelbach. My name is Nick Surface. I'm your co-host. And we are here because we recognize in ourselves, as well as in the many people that we've crossed paths with, a desire and a want to live a more full life, to be all that we can be, for lack of a better. I know that's probably offensive to you as an ex-Navy SEAL to use an Army
Well, I
term.
would say we want to attract and we want the people listening who want to live a better life, but I think there's also just that small opportunity to maybe encourage people that there's more life out there than what they have. The most disappointing thing to me is when I see people that they're really just living a fraction of the life that they should be living. And whenever I get the opportunity to just open a door for somebody, open someone's mind, or just take the scales from someone's eyes to see their life or see this world in a different way, where if they could just make a small shift and their life would increase dramatically, I want to do that every time that I can. And hopefully this podcast is an opportunity and a platform for us to do that, to make small shifts for people that enlarge their world dramatically.
Yeah. Oh, I think that touches on it exactly. I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is to shift forward and to achieve things that are actually possible, but in our minds or in people's minds, we might be telling ourselves that they're impossible. So I guess the obvious question is, what qualifies us to think that we can sit here and do that? So I'm going to talk about you because it's a lot easier to talk about.
I've never been
other
big
people.
on qualifications. Most titles are worth about as much as the paper they're printed on, but go ahead.
Well, there goes everything I had to say. But no.
Not everyone feels the same way as me. Some people appreciate titles, so go for it.
No, I know. Well, I've got a bunch of letters after my name, so I hope you respect me more now.
Yeah.
I don't actually have any letters after my name. But anyways, all right, so who are you? So I'm going to go ahead and do your bio to save you having to brag about yourself, and because I know how uncomfortable you get doing that, which is fun for me, but not so much for you. But yeah, so Garrett, you are obviously an ex-Navy SEAL. I think that's the first thing people respond to. 6 years in there, youngest ever team leader for SEAL Team 3. A lot of studs came out of that team. That in itself would be a great place to just stop for a lot of people and put their feet up and say, look what I accomplished. But since leaving the SEALs, you are now a real estate developer. You're also a venture capitalist. You and a team of ex-Navy SEALs provide teams, leadership, and culture for venture capitalists. You're also a coach, personally and in business. You lead the men's group at our amazing church, Elevate Life. And that's just what you do. On top of that, you would describe yourself, from what I've heard you give, probably the best ever 30-second elevator pitch I've ever heard anyone give, and you immediately forgot it. No, honestly, it was impressive when you gave it, and then I've heard you give it since, and it was, no offense, not even close to being as good as the one you gave in that mastermind. But yeah, you describe yourself as an odds defier, and I think just that list of things that I listed that you've accomplished would speak to that. But you're also a son to an awesome family, awesome parents. You're a father, you're a husband, and so many other things. So I think just that list right there is pretty accomplished.
Oh, thank you.
I would go further than that, though, to say that the reason I feel that you're in a position to give a lot of advice, and I, as a person who's along on the ride with you, am hopefully able to pull that out of you, is I think it's rare to see you as somebody who's genuinely happy and fulfilled. And while you're not content to settle where you're at, you are a guy who has lived more life at the age of 30 than most people accomplish in 2 or 3 lifetimes. And I would also say that on that list of accomplishments, obviously the Navy SEAL is a huge one for most people. And I think the thing that's amazing to me is, having been around you quite a bit, I've never seen you ever once lord any sort of look how tough I am over anybody, or try.
That comes from having other people that are much tougher than me around me. When you've been beat up before, you don't feel like you need to beat up other people. So some of that, I would never describe myself as humble. What I would say the most humble I'll ever be is describe myself as somebody who's not humble. It's kind of strange to go around and call yourself humble.
I get that.
But I would tell you, I've been humbled very many times. And the SEAL teams was a humbling experience for me. There's plenty of guys who are way tougher and way better than me. So whenever I think about, I could totally flex on this guy, I know there's a lot of people who can flex on me, so it's not important.
Yeah, and that's funny for me to hear, but you got to understand that for pretty much everyone that you and I I shouldn't say you and I, but everyone that I know, you're the toughest guy they know.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that, and what's amazing to me, I've seen guys make snidey cocky remarks for accomplishing a lot less. And I've never, honestly, in all the time I've been around you, never heard you even as a throwaway comment say something like that, which to me is hugely respectable. And that's something that stands out for me. And before you speak, sorry,
go ahead.
I'm gonna finish this thought. The other thing is that you said to me the other day that, once again, talking about this impossible life, you said to me, right now the greatest accomplishment in your life would be the Navy SEAL, was being a Navy SEAL. For most people, that's what they would put right number one. But you said you know that you're moving to a time when that's just going to be another accomplishment, but not be the greatest thing. Mm-hmm. And for me, man, like even just saying that now gives me chills. That's a mindset, and that's a person that I will rock with all day.
Oh, thank you.
And I love that. And that's exactly what, for me, this podcast is about, is that hunger and that desire to go out and say, hey, like, we're not settling. We're hungry. Like, we want this. We want to be the best we can possibly be.
To me, that whole thought process kind of comes from If by Rudyard Kipling. I don't remember the line specifically, but he says, if you could lose it all on a game of toss,
great quote,
and begin again. That to me is one of the not the only one, but one of the measures of a man, and hints on resiliency, is that ability to lose it all and to go again, or to get to the top in an area and say, I'll start over again. I think people have, and not everyone, so many of my peers are just crushing it, but some guys leave the SEAL teams and know that, like, that's the greatest thing I'll ever do. Mm-hmm. And some of that also has to do with, if I left the SEAL teams in my young 20s, other guys are leaving the SEAL teams in their 40s and 50s, and that can be a different challenge, but still the same. You can decide, I'm going to go on and do other equally or more significant things. I knew I was going to do that, but before we kind of go down that road, I just want to come back, touch on some of the things you said, and just wrap up there. I'm thankful for that intro. When I listen to you say all those things in the intro, really all I hear is all the people that have had a huge influence on me. Something I want to start with for sure, because it's a huge influence on me early. A lot of people think this comes from the movie Spider-Man, where Uncle Ben says, "To whom much is given, much is required." But that's actually, I believe it's Luke 12:48 that says, "To whom much is given, much is required." All the accolades or titles or whatever that you're putting on me, I really look at those things as I'm a product of those things. Mm-hmm. I'm a product of amazing parents. Like, I have two parents that love each other and are really a great model for a happy marriage. So I'm super privileged there. I'm one of the most privileged people I know. So I don't give myself a lot of grace and mercy. What I really give myself is a lot of expectation to serve others, because I've been given so much. But I'm a product of amazing parents. I'm a product of growing up around very smart, very wise leadership thinkers, people like Pastor Keith and others who influence me. I'm a product of the SEAL teams. I got to benefit from being around them, and a training style and a training methods that have been forged by some of the toughest combat, by some of the most amazing leaders over the last 50, well, more than that, years now. So I'm a product of all of those things. The last thing that I'm going to ever do, Nick, and I guess that's what you're saying you appreciate about me, but the last thing I'm going to get up and do is talk about, well, here's what I said, and here's what I did, mm-hmm. and here's who I am. Here's all these things that are me, Garrett. Because in all of this stuff, like, even if I say something smart, I can go like, really, here's, I've been influenced by this. I've been influenced by those things. Like, the last thing the world needs is another person walking around slapping a sticker with their name on it, on everything. Like, mm-hmm. Here's me, here's my quote, here's my business. Everyone look how great I am. The world we live in right now is such a one of the big lies right now is the lie of the self-made man. Everyone's right. Like, look, I'm so successful 100%. All by myself. Nobody helped me. Mm-hmm. I'm the opposite, or at least I'm trying to be. Like, I can tell you all the people that have helped me be successful. I can tell you all the times God's hand was on my life, that this person just called me, and that's who I was looking for, and they called me. Like, so it's really easy for me, Nick, I guess, to just take myself out of the equation and not feel significant about those things. I'm just trying to live my life the best I can and do what God's asked of me, be obedient to the will of God. And like Luke 12:48 says, to whom much is given, much is required. I feel like I've been given so much. So there's a lot of expectation for me on what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Yeah. And there's so much to take out of that. And that's a beautiful approach to look at it, as more looking at what's been given into you and taking responsibility. Now, I have to quote Uncle Ben correctly, because I'm a Spider-Man fan, and so is my 2-year-old.
Yeah, fix it if I said it wrong.
You quoted the scripture and said that that's what Uncle Ben said, but Uncle Ben actually said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
To whom much is given,
right.
Much is required is from Jesus.
So I said the scripture, but you're saying, that's what Uncle Ben said, but the Luke 12:48 is essentially the same thing.
Jesus, Uncle Ben, we hold them in high regard. Right. And just to say
There's a lot of Uncle Bens out there trying to quote scripture and say it was them. I don't want to be one of those people.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I'm glad to be here to correct you. And really, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to just pull those things out. And every once in a while when you say something and quote a movie
and
wrong,
I'm glad you
here.
said that, because I want to make sure and say this on here. I'm so grateful for you. You are an answer to prayer for me, because I love this. I love what we're doing here. I love just the thought that maybe by what we're talking about, there's one person out there that could hear this and it click for them. They're going to hear something and their world completely shifts, and it sets them on the path of their destiny. And that wouldn't be happening without you, because while I may be able to talk into a microphone, this microphone wouldn't be here without you. This podcast wouldn't be recorded and published. What you're hearing now would not exist without Nick Surface. So you're an answer to prayer for me, because I wanted this to happen, but I don't have all of the abilities that you have. I'm not the person who can do all this stuff. So you're making this happen just as much as I am. So I just want to make sure that's clear in here, that I'm very thankful for you, and I'm grateful.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I think we share the same heart as far as what we want, and what you touched on right there with people hopefully unlocking something in them. For me, while I don't have quite the rap sheet that you do, I'm proud of the way I live. I'm proud that I live up to my values, and the life I have with my wife and my kids, and just a lot of things about the way I'm living. I'm pleased with what I'm doing. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not stopping to throw a parade, nothing like that. But I'm grateful for the life I have.
How many people are, though? How many people are just waiting for the marching band to come around the corner? Everyone, look how great Nick is. I look at it.
No one says that.
I think you're really great.
Well,
Nick.
I appreciate that.
And I bet your wife does.
Yeah,
I
sometimes.
bet most of your children would say that.
Oh, dude, my kids love me. Yeah, they're too young not to know better.
How many people are stuck on that thought process of they're just waiting for someone to clap for them?
And I totally get that. I hear your heart on that. We're obviously going to dive into a lot of the stuff that you do and a few other things on this pod,
But that's not even the point. The point is that people can hear something here and it can shift.
Yeah, and that's our heart. Thank you for bringing me back to it. And I think that's where we both share this. Is for me, as I got a little bit sidetracked, I've always, I was a soccer coach for a number of years as well. And what I always said, the best coach is not the one who wins all the trophies or can take a great team and do what they're supposed to. The best coach is the one that maximizes what he has, in my opinion. And so it actually kills me. Strangely enough, we went and fed some homeless together, and what a humbling experience that is to see people, in my opinion, at the kind of the lowest possible place they can be. You know what I mean? They've got nothing. They're completely hooked on, unfortunately, what we were seeing. We saw the needles and all the things that were going on, and it's heartbreaking. And I couldn't help but get the thought out of my head while we're walking around, I wonder what your life could have been. And that is what motivates me as a person, both in my own life to lead myself and the way I lead my kids, for my friends when I encourage people, is because I want to see people maximize every single thing they have in their life and live up to their absolute full potential, whatever that means for that person. And so fortunately, I've got a guy like you we've been brought together and has something that he's accomplished that I think everybody universally recognizes as pretty elite, in the fact that you were a Navy SEAL.
Thank you.
But much beyond that, this is not about saying oh, here's a Navy SEAL, be like him. Nothing to do with that. This is 100% about, let's dive in and find out what.
Because if we're listening to Garrett because he's a Navy SEAL, I can list off about 100 Navy SEALs that you should listen to.
Yeah.
So hopefully this is more than that.
Oh, 100%. It's about capturing that hunger, that thought process, and diving into those different avenues of life that so many people struggle with, and unlocking them so people can break forward and change the way they think and change their lives.
And hopefully how that's going to happen for people is you hear something on here, but it clicks. Nick's going to help bring it out of me. And what I'm going to talk about on this podcast is really, hopefully it breaks down for you this pedestal that people put me or put Navy SEALs on, of this, different type of individual, that I don't share the same DNA that every other human does.
Right.
I am so fragile. I am so mortal. What's great about SEAL teams is that they're the teams. It's not, if you put a SEAL by himself, yeah, he's trained, but SEALs are powerful in teams, not a SEAL individual. And what I want people to get from this is to see really how small I am by myself, but really what I'm capable of is because I align myself with other people, because I make it not about me, but I make it about the mission, I make it about the team, and that's where you can achieve some really great things in your life. So you can become more capable in your life, your family, your business by some of the things we're going to talk about, but you're also going to be more capable as an individual, and I'll talk about some of those things from my life as well, where I could have been a very different person. I could have just been, a goofball that never really amounted to anything. And that really all comes back to some ways of thinking and some intentional decisions that I made, what I believed about myself and what I determined I was going to do. And you, listener, are able to do the exact same thing. You can decide, here's what I believe, and you can decide, here's what I'm going to do. And your life can explode in a completely different way. Or you can listen to this and say, those guys are full of it, and you're right. So this isn't part of what's unique to me, Nick, is, and some people like this, some people don't. Everywhere I go, I challenge people. Like that just happens. That's just who I am. Some people who don't like to be challenged don't like me very much. And the challenge I would give to every listener, there's probably going to be a challenge on every episode of this podcast, is decide that, are you someone who believes if I can shift my way of thinking, that I can change my life? If you believe that, this is probably the right podcast for you. If you're waiting for me to give you the tips and tricks to just press a button and your life change, and just press a button and everything's easy, or if you'll just think this thought, the water's not cold anymore, you're going to be listening and hoping for a long time, and you're not going to hear what you want to hear. But if you know that you have the power to transform your life, you want to listen to people who think the same thing, and you want to listen to some people that are going to explore that topic, show you how to shift your life by your way of thinking, this is where you need to be.
What I wanted to accomplish for this is to give people something they can hopefully listen to on their drive and get something that's going to be a seed in their mind, in their heart, in their spirit to help them, grow and develop and take these things and grow out. But I think from this first podcast, I just want people to understand why we're here. And really, I know your heart and I know my heart is to just equip people as best as possible to live and be the best version of themselves.
Absolutely.
I think that that's the best that anybody could do. I know that's the journey you're on. That's the journey I'm on. It looks different for everybody. Not everyone's going to be a Navy SEAL. Not everybody's going to be whatever I am. They're going to be them. And that's the best thing they could be.
Absolutely.
And so I think that there's tactics and, as you said, principles that apply universally to all people that we're going to dive into. And I think resiliency and self-talk is probably going to be the first one. But I think right now, I'd like to just wrap it up and just say to everybody, hey, stick with us. We're discovering this thing. We're excited. I think that you can count on is that we're committed to it. It's not going to be something that has 3 episodes and disappears. Yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us.
Well, I'm honored that people would listen, but more so, I hope that this can just be a sounding board for people who are know they're in a process of becoming, who know that they're headed somewhere, and even if you don't know what that place is, you know that you're going somewhere. That's what Nick and I are aligned on this podcast. We're aligned in life. Nick and I are people who know what we want out of life, and we don't think that we have all of the answers, but we are going to share what we do know to everyone else that is like us on this process of becoming, and know that nothing can stop them.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Well, there's number 1 in the books. We may look back on this and think how terrible it was one day, or we might, I don't know what we'll think, but it'll be fun. So thank you very much.